As you can see, many of the participants in this march are not businessmen and bankers. They're rather long-haired young people displaying peace signs and shouting, "Free Calley." Reaction along the sidewalks has been a mixture of bemusement and support. There has been some support from people in the back looking down and clapping, from the doormen at a hotel applauding, and then from scattered groups of spectators who've just been looking.
I believe that the President should set Lieutenant William Calley free.
Well, if I was the President of the United States, I'd up Lieutenant Calley about 2 ranks, give the Congressional Medal of Honor for carrying out his orders to a T.
Well, I think the President should do nothing but just give him a full pardon, kick the whole thing out.
Mr. Nixon, as our President, should grant to Lieutenant Calley a full pardon.
I think that Calley deserves to be released completely. He was only doing his job. If you're going to prosecute one, we'll prosecute a lot of them. And I feel that the President of the United States should release Calley and release everybody else. He's only doing his job, and this is war, and war stinks, and he just has to be released, and that's all there is about it.
I think Lieutenant Calley should be given a medal and all of his honors and a promotion.
It's a big mess, and President Nixon ought to find out what the truth is, really.
I appreciate all these wonderful people coming here. It far exceeded my expectations. Thank you, Ms. Price.
How's it going?
It far exceeded my expectations, the number of people here. But I think that this proves to the rest of America what the strong underlying feeling of the citizens are, that Lieutenant Calley was unjustly tried, and he had an unjust court-martial, and we have ways in the United States of getting our word over to the President and to the Congress that we, the citizens, the concerned citizens of Dallas, and I hope it will be the nation, do not go along with the conviction of Lieutenant Calley, and they will hear from us by petitions. Thank you.
And thus ends the march in protest of the conviction of Lieutenant Calley, as George Hughes merges into the crowd, thanking the people who walked up the town and down the town with him. This is Travis Linn, Channel 8 News on the Move.
When the government declared the land surrounding the Clinical Research Center to be surplus over a year ago, the city of Fort Worth had an option for 50% discount on any purchase. But that land is worth $500,000, and when last year's bond issue failed, the city was unable to come up with even the needed $250,000. After much negotiation and the passage of a new federal law, the city was able to get the land free. Mayor Sharkey Stovall accepted the deed in a ceremony today from Maurice Arnold of the Bureau of Outdoor Recreation. Stovall then explained what use will be made of the property. Stovall said he's proud of the ceremony today because it's exactly 2 years to the day since he started working on the project. Jay Lewis, Channel 8 News on the Move, Fort Worth.
I'd be opposed to it for a number of reasons. One, it'd be difficult to administer. It has an element of unfairness in it because not all men are married. Then, two, it would result, I believe, in a rash of marriages in your county jails so that inmates could establish they had wives prior to coming. I think the answer probably is in alternatives to incarceration, shorter sentences perhaps, more probation and parole. I don't deny for a minute that one of the most stringent aspects of prison punishment is sex deprivation, especially when you consider that almost half of these men are under the age of 25.
I don't know specifically how it'll affect Fort Worth or Texas. I think we were probably, Texas generally was the second largest subcontractor for the SST, next to California. Of course, Washington and Boeing in Seattle was the prime contractor for it. It obviously is going to affect a lot of jobs. It's going to have an impact, an adverse impact on the economy of the country. But more than that, I thought it was a very sad and a very tragic thing. To me, it reflects an attitude, however temporary, that this country is willing to sacrifice its leadership in the field of commercial aviation, and this is incredible to me.
I would generally agree with the American Civil Liberties Union and others that a case like that on review, the man ought to have some liberty, and so I would think that the president's probably done a justified thing.
What's the reaction of you and your constituents about the conviction?
First of all, there's been enormous mail and telephone calls from people in Oklahoma, generally unfavorable to the decision. My own feeling is that aside from the guilt or innocence of Lieutenant Calley, and that's a matter on review, and as a government official I wouldn't want to get into that, there are two things that can be said. One, I think that I've more and more come to think of him as a victim in this situation. I didn't start out to feel that way, but I think he's really sort of a victim of the whole thing. Two, that if he is guilty, he's not guilty alone.
We've talked to him several times and talked to his brother who's representing him. His brother's a management consultant, and they've decided to hold their negotiations in Honolulu. So we'll be meeting with Stan and his brother a little bit later in the week, early part of next week in Honolulu, and see if we can come to terms with him there.
You know, I've got to wonder if a college senior would be able to afford negotiating sessions in Honolulu if a merger comes about.
I think they might negotiate in their own hometown then, you know.
Well, depending upon how you read the signs, tomorrow's turnout in the Dallas School Board election could be light or it could be heavy. There was a record number of absentee ballots cast, 521. That might indicate a heavy turnout at the polls. It might also indicate that the voters know tomorrow is going to be every bit as beautiful as today, and thus they all plan to be gone on this weekend before Easter. Well, at any rate, the school board election in Dallas tomorrow could result in a major upheaval in the school board. There are 4 positions up for grabs. Right now, Lead has the control 8-1 over the CGS. However, should the CGS capture all 4 seats tomorrow, and they're running a full slate for the first time in many years, they would control the board 5-4. One of the lead challenges has been that should the CGS take over control of the board, out would go Marvin Berkeley as board chairman and probably Nolan Estes as school superintendent. CGS says no one will be ousted, that they're not talking that way at all. They're merely trying to win control of the board.
These administrative offices of the Fort Worth Independent School District will be the center of election returns tomorrow evening. 15 persons are vying for 3 places on the school board, all running as independents. From the board will come a new president, as Lloyd Turner, the current board president, chose not to seek re-election. Absentee voting indicates the voting turnout tomorrow will be heavy. Upwards of up to 20,000 has been forecast. Elsewhere in Tarrant County, Saturday, there will be 13 other independent school district elections. 21 city elections will also be on tap, including a hotly contested mayoral race at Arlington. Full Dallas and Tarrant County election returns will be given tomorrow evening on Channel 8. Jim Green for News on the Move in Fort Worth.
I'm standing on what is called the oil derrick at Six Flags over Texas. And over my shoulder, in this direction, skyline of the city of Fort Worth. Back in that direction, the skyline of the city of Dallas. But our main interest of concern is what is right over this rail, and it's Six Flags over Texas. The park is pretty well empty right now, about 250 workers putting their last last-minute finishing touches on the various rides and the various acts and planting flowers and trees and so forth to make the park pretty for tomorrow. The parking lots are empty today, but tomorrow they'll be swelled with cars as upwards of 15,000 people are expected to come into the park. A couple of new things at Six Flags Over Texas this year. One of the things is the big Western show that they'll be putting on each and every day in a brand new arena erected just for that purpose. One thing you won't be able to see is a new ride. It's been built in Switzerland and shipped to Six Flags Over Texas. It should be here about mid-May. It's called the Jet Racer, and it's something relatively new in rides. As we said, built in Switzerland and then sent to Six Flags Over Texas. Tomorrow morning, about 10 o'clock, they'll have the official ceremonies where the traditional Six Flags will be raised and Six Flags Over Texas will be opened. And then the park won't look anything like it does today. Jerry Park, Channel 8 News from 300 feet over Six Flags Over Texas.
Today, the citizens of the city of Fort Worth will be recipients of 207 acres of land which surrounds the Clinical Research Center. This land will be conveyed to the Park and Recreation Department for development of an 18-hole golf course and a complete community center at a later date. We have estimated the value of this land to the city of Fort Worth at approximately $500,000 at no cost to us.
Well, I might be another year older by the time it's over at the rate it's going now. We heard that they were going to run it pretty quick. Right now we're not on salary. We're being paid by the split on the playoffs. And as far as both teams and players are concerned, we just as well run them off as quick as you can because there's only one team going to win.
Well, Bobby Crum has been quoted in print as saying it's sure you're giving Omaha a free game by the scheduling. Do you agree with that?
Well, if Bobby says it, he's right. He hasn't been wrong since I've been here.
Well, before the schedule was announced, you felt good about playing Omaha, and I'm sure you still do. What kind of a series will you have to play to win?
Well, we're going to have to stay up. We know we got a bigger team, and we think we got just as good a club. It's the team that makes the least number of mistakes that will end up as the eventual winner.
Would you have to play the same type of game as you did against Fort Worth?
Yeah, because they motor pretty well, and you know at Fort Worth they extended us pretty good in that series.
Mm-hmm. Then the home ice advantage is not apparent then in the playoff, is it?
I don't see why it should be. The nets are all 4x6, and they got a couple of blue lines in the center ice line, and they got very, very neutral referees. And you drop the puck, and you just go at it from there.
How long have you been with the Hawks?
I've been. Christmas is still going on. I came in here on the 6th, I think, of the month.
Of course, the sports writers have written a great deal about you. Fans like the way you handle yourself, and you seem to have really added that certain amount of enthusiasm that the team was looking for or needed to pull it together into the playoffs. How do you feel about these youngsters you're playing with?
Well, first of all, Jerry, as I told you before, I'm only 1/18th of the guy that's getting the hustle, and going into the playoff with these kids are just the greatest bunch of kids I've ever played with. They're mannerly and they're well educated and they're just great guys. I mean, I haven't got a gray hair in my head since I come here with these guys, and I think they want to win. There's 10 of them that never been on a pro club before in their life, and they finally found out that what hockey's all about when we beat up Fort Worth.
Will they miss LeBlanc if his injury holds up, or it might be good for you in that respect with a long playoff?
LeBlanc's still got one leg. That's all he needs.
Anything over a life sentence is meaningless. To give a man a sentence beyond his natural life just indicates an attitude. It doesn't have any effect. If punishment is to be a deterrent to crime, it must be swift and it must be sure. Severity of punishment, I don't think is too effective as a deterrent.